I like this. Hey, Steve.
Me too.
Good morning again, Chairman Miller, honorable board members. Steve Monahan, your Chief Information Officer, and I'm really excited about this item too. And for a little background, for public committee, um, in 2019, your board adopted a new countywide broadband strategy plan that we worked with Sierra Business Council to draft and put in place. We're updating that plan this year, but it did lay out several strategies and approaches to help solve our local broadband problem. And the number one issue that we really looked at was the challenge around last mile connections. And last mile connections is the actual broadband connection, that internet connection to the home or to the business. And that last mile connection is the most costly connection to build out construction wise. And it's the most challenging because of our topology and our rural nature of our community and our neighborhoods. You know, we are not a urban, suburban, vast miles of dense neighborhoods. So it's very costly. So this is what we're trying to solve. In 2020, your board created a broadband objective as part of your economic objectives at your workshop. In 2021, your board pulled out that broadband objective, that priority for county staff to work on, and made it a standalone objective. In 2020, your board approved a new, first in the state that we know of, county-based last mile grant program, and really trying to be a catalyst and facilitator with local providers to get over that barrier of building out those last mile connections. We are very excited. Last year, we awarded 2 projects that are in progress and moving forward very successfully right now. And then this year, we have a number of projects and grant applications. We're recommending to your board this morning to award 4 of those projects. And really excited that a couple of them are building on last year's projects and adding more connections, but a couple of them are new providers doing new projects and new models that really can expand and be replicated across our county. So that we're really feeling that the strategy of being that catalyst of getting these projects and providers going so that they then go and expand and find other grant dollars and financing on their own really works. So we're excited about that. And I'll turn it over to the team. I believe Caleb is next.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Miller, honorable supervisors. Steve, that's a great introduction. My name is Caleb Dardick, project administrator in the CEO's office, and it's been a real privilege to work with our broadband work group that Steve leads and with our partners, the Sierra Business Council, on putting this latest request for applications for the Last Mile Broadband Grant Program. Just want to quickly give you a sense of the process, and then we'll turn it over to the Sierra Business Council to walk through each of the projects that we're recommending. We opened up this second round in late January, and Jeffrey, if you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. And the deadline for submissions was early March, and so we're now bringing the recommendation to you at this time. I just want to mention a few of the critical criteria. I think Steve really alluded to them already, but just hit the main ones, which is that we wanted projects that were ready and had the ability to move, sequentially to completion. We wanted to support models that had the capacity to expand or could be replicated elsewhere in the county. And really importantly, we wanted to leverage the limited broadband funds that we have by requiring a minimum of a 50% match, which we were able to get in all cases, some even more. We also put a cap, a maximum grant request of $250,000. And those were sort of the main criteria I wanted to refer to. I want to say that we led this process with our great team really kudos are earned by the Sierra Business Council, who managed the process, specifically Carrie Sinoff, who's on the call with us. She is a project manager there, and she is also assigned to the the Gold Country Broadband Consortium. Excellent, excellent partner, very conscientious, very thorough. She has a real complete understanding of these projects, and it's my pleasure to introduce Carrie to the board. And if we could go to the next slide. And I am hoping Carrie is there.
Yes, good morning, Chair Miller and members of the board. Are you able to hear me?
We are.
Okay, great. I am also very excited to introduce these projects today. Unfortunately, I have a very small laptop, so I will be looking at my larger screen and away from the camera, so I apologize if I don't have direct eye contact with all of you. So let me get, as Steve and Caleb mentioned, we are utilizing $500,000 in the broadband grant funding project, the last mile broadband grant, to fund, hopefully, to request approval of funding for 4 projects. 3 of these projects are located in Western Nevada County. 1 is located in Eastern Nevada County. We anticipate connecting 440 actual connections out of 540 connection opportunities. All of the projects will be installed within 12 to 18 months. We'd have allowed a 6-month window for any unforeseen difficulties, but actually 3 of these projects will probably be installed in under 12 months. Each project has a different timeline, but our goal is to under promise and over deliver to our residents in those areas. They've waited a long time for this service, so we want to make sure when we let them know it's going to be installed, it'll be installed. So let's move on to this map. I have a beautiful map here to show you an overview of the 3 projects in Western Nevada County. At the top of the screen, you will see Spiral Fibers project, proposed project. To the right of your screen, you can see Nevada County Fiber, where they have proposed a project. And at the bottom of the screen is Northern Sierra Broadband, their project. So let's dive into those. Okay, we're going to start with Nevada County Fiber. And if you look at this map, I'll draw your attention to their 22 locations in the royal blue. And this is 22 underground fiber to home connections, and it is an extension from the 2019-2020 Banner Mountain Last Mile Broadband project, which was 16 connections in teal. This project is in the community of Oak Ridge, Bear Claw Court neighborhood. The total project cost was $289,000, but the grant request came in at 39% match, which is under the minimum, which is great, $113,000. So this brings this project down to $5,134. So we really appreciate Andrew Wilkinson, the founder and CEO, reducing that match. It makes a big difference for the county. I want to call out how resilient this project is, with being 100% underground against the threats of extreme weather and fire. And also the data center is equipped with solar and backup battery, and also a auto start generator, so it can run during PSPS events or other general power outages, which we know is incredibly important for public safety. So Nevada County Fiber will offer packages up to 1 gigabyte with 10 gigabyte capability future ready, which is very important. So some of the highlights, every project will have some unique features. Andrew Wilkerson is designing this for open access network, which I will discuss a little bit later. And it is also being built with long-term scalability to eventually become a community-owned network. And if you go back to the map, you can see these 50 additional locations in yellow, and these are hopefully going to be built out in the future utilizing CASIF, California Advanced Services Fund money. Andrew Wilkinson currently has an application pending, so we're all hoping that that will move forward. And that's the main highlights of this project. And I think Andrew is also excited to, in his first year, he's already figured out how to reduce his cost by 10%. Let's go to the next slide and talk about Northern Sierra Broadband. This is working with Michael Anderson. He is the founder and director. And this is a unique project. This is 35 fiber to home connection network located in the Buck Mountain Oak Ariana neighborhoods. The total project cost for this was $245,000, but the grant request was $120,000, which brings the subsidized per connection amount down to $3,429. This project is 75% underground, 25% above ground, and it is utilizing underground conduit. So that's part of the reason why this cost is so low, because he's utilizing 75% underground cable conduit. And the other unique thing about this project is it is actually going to be a community-owned project. So as soon as construction is finished and the connections to the house are built out, these homeowners will be part of the connection network, and they will also utilize open access network through entry point software. And basically, we're going to hear a lot about open access through 3 of these 4 projects. So open access is basically, you have the infrastructure of the project, and then you have the operations and maintenance. But then the third part of this is the service. So this software allows the network to be open up to vendors, any vendors who are interested. And so what that does for the customer, it allows them to bundle the packages they want. They can decide, I want data service from AT&T, or I want home security from this vendor. So any of these other service providers that participate and make their services available, then the customer can pick and choose what services they want. So it allows flexibility. It allows customers to be cost effective. It allows them to get the service that they want. This is a very neat trend. We'll see some of the other projects also trying to do this. As Nevada County Fiber before, his goal is to get to there as soon as he builds out. So this is happening across the country in other areas, and we're glad that Nevada County is going to be offering this in hopefully one of their projects. The other interesting thing about Northern Sierra Broadband is it has a, let me get back to my notes here, sorry. It is I want to make sure I get the number right, pardon me. It is a 501c12, which is a federal utility nonprofit. And it is also a designated California 501c nonprofit. This is significant because this status maintains that it will always remain a nonprofit, a public organization. So if it changes hands, it cannot be sold for a for-profit business. It will stay community-owned. This also has long-term scalability. There's already neighboring areas that are interested and want to build off this. It will start off with 100 megabits now with 1 gig in the future. And it is also resilient. It has solar, backup battery, and auto start generator as well. So I think I got all the highlights in that. Next, let's move on to spiral fiber. And this is with Sandy Hakala, the CEO, and John Paul, who is acting as the Chief Growth Officer. And this project is a little bit different than the others because this is also 100% fiber to home connection, all underground. This project, the total project cost for this comes in at $3,200,000. However, the grant request is for $205,000. That's a subsidized amount we're looking for, which brings the per connection cost down to $675, which seems a little distorted, but that's because, like I said, they're only asking for $205,000. So really what we're doing is looking at this money as seed money to leverage the $3 million left over in institutional infrastructure investment. This will have an enormous impact on Nevada County in 2 ways. Just putting this millions of dollars into the community will, expand jobs, bring jobs to the county, and it will also give a big boost to rural broadband expansion, which is the goal of today. And this project eventually will build out to hopefully 14,000 connections over the next few years. So we have a lot of amazing potential here. And again, no power outages. In fact, this one will not run off generators, will actually be connected to natural gas. So it will be always be able to be accessed. Let's see, did I miss anything on that? Oh, and then the other big thing about this one is it leverages the vast middle mile, which is great. And this one also, again, it's going to, over time, hope to participate in the open access network design. And then before we move on to the Eastern Nevada project, I want to show you this slide. This is the same slide I showed you before, the overview of Western Nevada County proposed projects. However, this time what I did was inserted where the race communication projects are. Those are CASF grant projects that are currently still being built out. And the reason I'm showing this is because I think I want the board to visually see these projects and see the room for expansion that each ISP has, because that's very important to sustainability, to expanding broadband, to continued growth, to successful business models. So if you look at all of these 3 red proposed projects in relation to the RACE project, you can see that there is plenty of room for each of our local ISPs to build out their networks into the future. Is there any questions on that? And then I'll move on to Eastern Nevada.
Anybody have any questions? No, just keep on rolling.
Okay, here we go, finally.
Question?
Call party.
Quick question, sorry. Thank you, Carrie. Does Starlink play a role, or is that tech? I don't know enough about that technology to understand if it's useful or covered in our area at all.
I think what I'd like to do is, that's a great question, and Steve Monahan has a lot of information to share on that. He's been doing a lot of research, so why don't we get through the Eastern Nevada slide, and then we'll follow up with that in our follow-up Q&A, if that's okay with the board.
Thank you.
Okay, so now let's go to Eastern Nevada County, and this project is being proposed by Oasis Broadband with Devin Cope. He is the founder and CEO. He has been installing fixed wireless systems for 18 years. He is a magician in what he can do. He can get service in places that nobody should be able to get service. So we're excited that he is applied for this grant and will be building a project out in the Dog Valley area, which is encompasses three sub-communities: Dog Valley Road, Russell Valley, and Klondike Flats. This project is different because, as I said, it's fixed wireless. It's in a very remote region where there's no cable, no DSL. The primary service offered is satellite. This area has a minimum of, there's 29 Truckee Tahoe Unified School District K through 12 kids that live out there, in addition to some homeschooled charter kids that we didn't get numbers in time to include in this. So over 30 K through 12 kids, and they cannot be connected. So we are happy to introduce this, and this grant amount was total project was $124,000. The grant request was $62,000, so it'll bring down the subsidized county contribution to $738 per connection. And we anticipate a 80% take rate. So the connections here will be 84, a minimum of 84. And then an additional highlight here is there is a homeowners association that offers the homeowners seasonal campground of up to 535 connections. That is not included in the grant, but the HOA is excited to have this come to their area. And their technology, basically, Devin from Oasis offers two technology types. One is the 5 gigahertz line of sight, which will be available to almost, I think, 80 of the customers out there anticipated. But if there is heavy vegetation, dense vegetation, then what happens is he has to offer a different type of technology, which can penetrate dense vegetation, but goes shorter distances. So it's a little bit slower. And there's about 20 customers that he will probably end up using that technology on. But both of these fixed wireless technologies have come a long way. They are very reliable, and they can offer speeds of up to 100 megabit seconds per second down, 20 up, which is great. And let's see. Oh, and also, this Oasis project is also building off one of the elements from the 2019-2020 grant that he built out in Prosser. Prosser Dam Road, which has been installed and is up and running. And I have called several of those customers, and they are thrilled. So we're expecting the same level of service to this area.
Could I just ask one question?
Yes.
So I'm just curious. So do they have to put towers up for this? Was that allowed, or how they manage that part?
That's a great question. So when I refer to Devin sort of being a magician and finding places everywhere, sometimes they'll install on water towers. It's always, or there work with a private property owner. So originally with this project, they were planning on, he had talked to the property owner out there at Timber Hills, and they were going to put a tower on top of the water tower. But after doing some research and flying drones and all the preliminary work they do to research an area, in this area, they think they are now going to be putting in an 80-foot tower on private property out there. But oftentimes they're utilizing what they can, whether it's trees or somebody's house, whatever they can. Oasis rarely has to build towers, but in this project, and there's another project he's looking at also in eastern Nevada County developing right now, and it will probably need a tower as well.
Okay, great.
On
Thanks for
private
that.
property. And that is, that is my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions I can to clarify any of the projects. I know that was a lot to go through, and I'm sure I missed some.
Carrie, thank you so much. That was really thorough and really, explaining how each project is unique, but really fits this goal to reach the sort of the last mile connections. Yeah, all three of us here, Steve, myself, and Carrie, welcome your questions.
Okay, looks like Julie has two letters for this item. So let's have Julie read the letters, and then we'll come back for board questions.
Thank you, Chair Miller. The first letter is from Edward Hilton. He's a representative from the Tahoe Truckee Unified School District. And he writes, I am writing in support of the Russell Valley, Dog Valley, Klondike Flats project submitted by Oasis Broadband, which will offer broadband service to 103 homes located within the Tahoe Truckee Unified School District. These residents have children enrolled in our schools, and having a fast and stable internet connection is integral to their comprehensive education. At home, our students connect to the internet and use our devices to learn during and beyond the school day. They are able to access class meetings, complete homework, collaborate with one another, and receive instant feedback from their teachers. This access has proved to be critical during the past year, as our students have participated in distance and hybrid learning environments required by state and local mitigations during the COVID-19 pandemic. We support regional vendors working with our government agencies and communities to ensure anytime, anywhere, learning for students in all areas of that our district serves. As a regional broadband vendor and district partner, Oasis Broadband has proven their ability to deliver on project objectives. Over the last year, Oasis successfully provided critical broadband access for district students where there was no wired connection possible and no cellular signal had reached. We urge your approval of the Last Mile Broadband Grant Program projects. These projects are a vital component to teaching California's digital access goals and our region's broadband objectives. And he offers to speak with you if you'd like to call him with any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Our second letter is from Gil Matthew. He's the Executive Director of the Nevada County Economic Resource Council. And he writes, the Nevada County Economic Resource Council is pleased to support the staff recommendations to award a total of $500,000 to Last Mile Broadband Grant Program. The ERC believes there is no better investment to support economic development than Last Mile Broadband. In fact, we have worked tirelessly over 10 years to support expanded broadband within the community. We understand that the proposed grant is consistent with the board's priorities and will support economic diversification and help businesses coping with the economic shock of COVID-19, students to access distance learning, and families partake in telemedicine opportunities. The ERC encourages the board to continue the Last Mile Grant Program and continue to identify projects that will align with the region's economic development and community resilience strategies. And I believe that's all for public comments, Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, Hardy, your question.
Oh, thank you. I have a question about Starlink, just on its applicability, and then I have two other kind of minor quick questions, but I just wondering, Starlink's this new technology, and I'm not really clear on what it covers, and it doesn't, but it may be an opportunity. Just like to learn a little bit about that.
Great. Chair Miller, Supervisor Bullock, Steve Monahan again. Really excited also about Starlink. They're starting to turn on what they call cells, which are hexagon, about 15-mile across cells in our county. We know of a few that have been activated so far. So the new technology in Starlink is that they're low orbit satellites, which means the delay, which was always the problem with the stationary satellites or geosynchronous satellites, didn't support like voice communication, video conferencing, gaming, applications that needed really quick response times. But these low satellites, and Starlink is the new generation, and there's several companies trying to get into this business, have very low latency. That's that delay, down in the 20 millisecond to 40 millisecond range, which is the game changer. But because it's not one satellite staying in the same position in the sky over an area, they have to have hundreds, thousands. I think they're proposing 14,000 satellites because they're constantly moving through the sky and you're shifting to them. So while they're starting to add service, they don't have the density of satellites yet to have uninterrupted service. So you might have a satellite and then it goes, and then you might have to wait 10 minutes right now for the next satellite. They'll solve that problem over time. What it does do is we have very rural areas that no matter how much fiber or our wireless providers build out, they still will not be able to reach some of the very rural areas of our county. And Starlink will be a great solution for those folks, you know, up to 100 megabits, maybe 150 megabits, they're saying they're going to start offering. But is it the long-term 10-year, 20-year, 50-year solution? I would say no, compared to what a fiber project would do to a community. Fiber is like putting in a sewer or a road or a gas line. It's infrastructure that's going to be in the ground or, you know, hung up in the trees in some areas around our county and lasts 100 years. And not to get too technical, but if you look at the acceleration of compute power and PC processing power and what we're doing with it, think of 20 years ago, we were doing dial-up almost, right? And now we're talking about gigabit internet. Well, where are we going to be in 20 years from now? Well, fiber is going to support whatever that is in 20 years from now. Is satellite going to be able to support it? That's the big question. I don't think the current generation is going to be able to do that. So, you know, I'm really looking at fiber as that, you know, 100-year infrastructure for the community to solve this problem. But again, satellite does have its piece as well as fixed wireless to solve our short-term needs in some of our areas.
Okay, thank you. Great description, and it makes sense to me. I just had one quick question on the Spiral Fiber project. It had 14,000 connections. Is that the total, essentially, households that could connect to that system? That
So
would be.
Yeah, Supervisor, I believe the current project is 380 connections, but what they're planning on, what the potential for the Spiral project to become, and they've done public notices on this in the community, is out to that 14,000 connection, which would be really a game changer for Western Nevada County.
Okay, and that would be 14,000 connections in the service area outlined in the map. There potentially could be that many customers within that system?
No, what's on Carrie's map, which is just for this grant project, that's at 380.
Okay.
14,000 would be, if you, would be more to the west of Highway 49, you know, wrapping from Wolf Mountain down in that area, all the way around Penn Valley, all the way around Nevada City.
Okay, so the map was the connection, current connection, projected connections in the project, not necessarily the build out capacity. Okay, that was great. And then one final question on the Oasis build. Is there a reason why that is not an open network, and kind of compared to some of the other ones that were an open network type of solution?
Mainly because Oasis is a private internet service provider, fixed wireless provider, and that's a private network. All of their projects over the last 10 years, they built their company network, just like Comcast, except for it's wireless, right? So it's not an open network.
Okay, thank you. That's all of my questions. Thank you, Chair Miller.
Okay, Ed?
Thank you, Chair Miller. Well, these are exciting projects. I find myself, I'm still not the broadband expert by any means at all. I'm really glad to see the Buck Mountain, Northern Sierra broadband and down in the Alta Sierra area, which is wonderful. In looking at this, is this project dependent on AT&T? Is that the source here?
Supervisor Schofield, yes, their feed right now initially will be coming from AT&T. AT&T has fiber in there, but they're not providing it to the home, so they're actually very excited to work with this project because it gives them some revenue as well as the one up on Banner Mountain, the Nevada County Fiber. They also get their feed from AT&T fiber. So
Nevada County Fiber, you're talking about that?
Yes.
Yes.
Both those projects, yeah.
Okay, and I really like the layout of this map from Nevada County Fiber, which really kind of shows just how much is available there. I like the map that was shown on the spiral along with race communication. But I know we've seen these maps before, but where the county's also covered by Comcast, some of the other larger areas would be good to see too, what we're really missing. So I like the one map with the Nevada County Fiber. And if you'll help me just a second, what is CASF?
That's the
pending grants.
Supervisor, that's the California Advanced Services Fund. It's a fund through the California Public Utility Commission to fund broadband. So they have an application so the Race Communications Project received like a $15 million CASF grant to help fund that project. And then Nevada County Fiber has also applied for money to expand their project in that same grant program.
So when we say it's pending at the state level then?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Very good, very good. And then is Spiral coming off of the Middle Mile project?
And that's what's really another, we keep saying exciting, but that's another exciting aspect. We've had this vast network Middle Mile project. It was a ARA funded, American Recovery Act back in 2012, I think it was completed and built. It comes from Bakersfield all the way up to Nevada County and then over to Colusa. It makes a ring. And the high schools and the county library is connected to it, and maybe 3-4 other businesses, and that's it. We've never had a last mile provider connect to that Middle Mile project. And that's what's exciting about the Spiral Fiber, is their whole project is going to go along the path of that Middle Mile project and tap into it and leverage it.
That's really exciting because that impacts a number of our districts, including District 2 in the South County on the western side of 49. That would be wonderful if that happens. And then the only other question I have, there must be the guarantee of a match funding before we proceed with the allocation of these funds.
Yes, Supervisor, absolutely.
Very good. Thank you. Exciting projects. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for your effort. Thank you, Carrie. Thanks for your effort.
Thank you. And I did fail to mention that the $500,000 in grant funding It leverages almost $4 million in projects. It leverages $3,855,000. So for $500,000, we're leveraging almost $4 million in projects.
And you know, you might clarify where that 500,000 is coming from too, Steve, Carrie.
Yes, Supervisor. So 250,000 of it is coming from your Economic Development Fund, which is funded through your Transient Occupancy Tax, the TOT tax. And then 250,000 of it is coming from the recent PG&E settlement funds, and that was presented to your board in your workshop as an allocation.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Chair Miller.
Okay, fine. I think Caleb's mantra is leverage, leverage, leverage as far as money's available. Heidi.
Yeah, thank you. I just can't, this is just beyond exciting that have these 4 projects come forward. I know I've worked with Michael and Andrew and John Paul. I don't know Sandy, but I know these guys have been working for years to bring this to fruition, and I'm thrilled for them and for us that we're in this place where they can build these networks out. For those of you who still aren't going to get connected, I feel you. I'm one of those, supposed to be in the original spiral/race project and got dropped because I'm too far out. So there's a lot of folks that still need to be connected. And that's where I just want to note that this is the year for broadband in the state and nationally. AB 34 by Cecilia Aguilar Curry and SB 4 from Ana Caballero, both in the Assembly and the Senate of California, would provide all kinds of help for broadband all the way to the last mile. They would extend the CASA funding and add more money. They would reduce the barriers from the telcos who've stopped these new companies from moving forward. And they would provide millions, if not billions, to get the last mile to literally everyone in the state. And there's there's a bill at the feds also. Currently, our own representatives are not co-sponsoring or co-authoring them. Hope they'll find their way to vote for them. And the 2 sponsors are working together to make it work for all of us. What's exciting about that is these projects are set up to grab the funding that could come down from them to expand. We are, as a county, set up so well to take really great advantage of both the state and the federal funding. So I'm very excited that we're in this position. I know CSAC and I believe RC Dan also has made this a high priority for this year too, because there is finally all this action at both the state and federal levels. The one question I had is that, and I just want to mention on satellites, I did learn from one of our, on the Starlink, I did learn from one of our experts at the CSAC meetings that satellite use for connection is expensive because the satellites fall out of the atmosphere, literally. And they end up being expensive to replace. I don't know if that would apply to these lower Starlink satellites, but I do know that fiber is really the place we want to be. The one thing I did not see this presentation address was the cost to consumer. And so the big issues that we're dealing with in broadband in this country include lack of access, the too low speeds of access, and cost of access. So did the providers provide any estimates about how much this would cost, or their provisions for our low-income communities to have sliding rates? Can someone address how these projects are looking at that?
Supervisor Hall, Chair Miller, all of the applicants have to provide what the rates are. They're all right in the market rate. And I believe the Spiral project had a low income provision in that, but I would defer to Carrie if she has some more details on that.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, all of the applicants had to share their subscription rates within their applications, so we know what those are. They three of the providers all offer reduced rates for low income subscribers. They're all willing to work with the packages to make sure they can get connected. And then, we can't forget with the federal funds and all the E-rate money that will be coming through. I think that's going to be important too. For me, the most important part is getting the infrastructure built, and we will figure out, once the infrastructure is built, we can figure out how to make sure everybody can afford it. But if it doesn't get built, then we can't help these people get connected. If we get it built, we can help everybody get connected. The ISPs will play a part in that, and the state and the federal governments hopefully will play a part in that as well.
Thank you. I do, and maybe in the future, if we make this a condition for future grants like this, that might actually help them access the state and federal funds as well, because I'm sure they're all going to have requirements for that. So I'm excited about this. I hope we are going to be able to leverage even more once these get going. Great questions by my colleagues. Thanks for asking those. I learned something from all of those questions, even you, Ed. So thank you. Thanks. I don't have any more questions, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Heidi. Sue?
No, those were all good questions. I would say, so I'm not going to reiterate a bunch of those, but I'll be happy when I see those colors moving more into my district. So, and I would tell you though, the one thing that does is this fact that VAST has come into the picture, because I mean, all of our districts have some of that in them. I know that runs through Penn Valley into the schools. I know that we have it to out the further parts of McCourtney. So that excites me. I really feel like if we can leverage that, it will open doors up. But the other project though, up in District 5 is broadband. Broadband really is helpful at this point, wherever we're at. And my Penn Valley MAC has an ad hoc committee looking into those options and trying to find out information in the Penn Valley area. And Smarter Broadband is down there, and I don't know, a couple other ones, but those, just hearing that that's happening up in District 5, that's got to be very helpful, especially with all this remote learning the kids are having to do. So I'm excited to hear about that project. We can promote broadband and fiber as much as we can in all those directions. It's going to be beneficial. So, but I will love it when I see those colors going from Penn Valley and McCourtney Road to North San Juan. So thanks for your hard work, Caleb, all of you. Carrie, thank you so much.
Okay, great. Good conversation, good questions. Steve, you have anything? Carrie, you have anything to follow up with?
No, I would say we're just excited to move this forward and would recommend that you pass the resolution. Thank you.
So there is a resolution here to approve the Last Mile Broadband Grant Program Award recommendations for fiscal year 2021 and direct staff to prepare contract with the internet service providers in the amount of $500,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Hall,
So
District
moved.
1.
Supervisor Hall, second. Supervisor.
District 5 seconds.
Thanks, Hardy. Second, Supervisor Bullock. Julie, could you read the roll, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair Miller. District 1,
District 1, yes.
District 5,
District 5, yes.
District 2,
District 2, yes.
District 4,
District 4, yes.
and District 3.
District 3, yes. Carrie, Steve, Caleb, thank you very much.
Thank